The Ikarie XB-1 is an exploration ship that's been sent out to investigate a mysterious planet in Alpha Centauri. Along the way, the crew encounters several unexpected hurdles. This Czech film from the 1960s might sound like classic sci-fi, but it's very much ahead of its time. Let's take a look. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together and talk about a sci-fi movie. It's that simple. And this episode, we're looking at a film that you've probably never heard of because it's a Czechoslovakian film. And, well, it was Czechoslovakia when they made the movie. Technically, it's Czechia now. And it was the Czech Republic somewhere in between there. I can't keep track of all their rebrands of that country.
You can't pull on this thread, Pete. It's all going to fall apart. Eventually, you're just going to say, like, and eventually it was a Pangean film.
Like, in my head, it's all just Czech. It's all just Czech.
Yep.
Right? Prague was always in there, I think. So anyway,
you're gonna get some angry comment from a historian who's like, actually, in the late 1700s,
in the last century. I don't care about before then. Okay,
all right.
Movies have only existed for the last 100 years. It won't matter to me any time before that. So yes, we're here today to talk about a film called Ikarie XB-1 is the name of the film, although it also has an American title called The Voyage to the End of the Universe, I believe is the Americanized title. However,
yes.
Little note on this is that they pulled a little bit of a Godzilla King of the Monsters with this one, in that the American company that got a hold of it re-edited the movie, cut out about 10 minutes, and most notably, and we'll save the explanation of what's different will come late in spoilers, but the ending's completely different in the American version. So I hope David watched the right version.
Golly, I hope so too. I hope I didn't have to pay $10.99 to get a subscription to the Criterion channel just to make sure that I did watch the right version.
I'm pretty sure Criterion would have given you the right proper thing.
I hope so. I mean, it wasn't in English. I'm pretty sure the American one was dubbed as well. So I was reading subtitles the whole time.
Yeah, that'd have been pretty noticeable, to be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch. You can give us 5 stars in the podcast app of your choice. And of course, you can support everything over at Patreon or via YouTube membership and get some bonuses. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, the basic gist of this is quite simple. It's about a mission into space. It's, the Ikarie is a ship that's going to Alpha Centauri to hopefully find planets that are either possible to support life or maybe even already are supporting life. They don't know. It's a complete journey of discovery, and that's basically it. And obviously, there might be a hiccup or two along the way, hence the movie having a plot.
I was going to say, a movie with conflict? I don't understand. How can that happen?
So that's the basic gist of it. And I also had never heard of this until maybe a couple of months ago. I was just, every so often I'll go digging, looking for sci-fi movies to put on the to-do list and all that. And I checked a bunch of best of lists, that kind of thing. And then I don't know what list I encountered it on, but I came across this. And I was like, oh, a Czechoslovakian sci-fi movie. We haven't done one of those on the show. I'm consider me curious. So I checked to make sure it was available and threw it on the schedule because the curiosity was just was getting the better of me. So, which I do like doing sometimes is just like, okay, I found something. I don't know if it's going to be good. Let's just throw it on and find out and see what the results are. And that's what we're going to do here today. So, yeah. I will say the American title, The Voyage to the End of the Universe, it's not a bad title in general, but I do think that it sounds a lot more like cheesy 50s sci-fi movie,
No, I mean, from that, I was expecting, 50-foot woman and stuff like that. I was expecting some crazy-ass compositing special effects and stuff like that, of trying to make it seem all campy, I guess.
Yeah, so this is from 1963, which is still obviously very much in a pre-modern sci-fi world. And by that, what I really mean to say is that I typically late 70s is really when modern science fiction really started to take off. You had things like Star Wars, Alien, a few other things all kind of coming together and kind of forming what we think of as modern science fiction. This is before then, but the reason why I'm pointing that out is because I think in some ways this movie is actually a little bit ahead of its time with how it tackles certain things and its tone in certain places. Don't get me wrong, there's still, like, the set design still feel very classic 50s sci-fi kind of cheese. You know, it's all very flat surfaces, like blinking lights, and it has that kind of look to it. Although that said, it is shot in black and white, but it's in the scope widescreen, so you're getting the big cinematic framing, which is an interesting combination. But it's a very interesting movie in that it feels ahead of anything else that was being made in like American science fiction around this same time period, but it still has some feet like in the past, because it's not, you know, we're not at a point yet where new effects techniques had been developed yet and whatnot. So it's a really interesting concoction between those two kind of time periods for me.
Yeah, no, that was my, I mean, if we're getting into like general feelings about the movie, that's kind of the big impressive thing for me, is that this movie, while the special effects itself are very dated, it feels more of the era, stuff like that, the technical aspects when it comes down to direction, to shot composition, to cinematography, like all of that stuff feels so well beyond its time. I would say, arguing, like, I feel like America didn't catch up to this sort of stuff until, like, in the general sense, to like 80s or 90s. Like, it feels very, very far ahead for what it was. Obviously, you had like big time directors, you know, your Kubricks or whatever, who were at this level in the 70s or whatever, but it's blew me away with even the opening sequence, where it felt just so modern, despite the fact that it's black and white on this very campy looking set. Like, they filmed it in such a new way comparatively.
I mean, you brought up Kubrick. I mean, I think the earliest example, I guess, of what, I mean, I said late 70s, but technically 2001 is kind of the first big, like, oh, a sci-fi movie can be like important and serious and special and be thought-provoking, and not just like, isn't this silly, rubber arms, you know, like blinking lights, all that stuff. Because, you know, it was like there was conversations early on in this movie about time dilation. I'm like, wait, we're having interstellar conversations in this 1963 film? All right, I guess we're doing that.
At one point they pull out a piece of paper and shove a pencil through it. My God, it's all the same.
No, we hadn't got to that yet. That was
no.
We didn't get that to there until the 90s or something. I don't know when that became the trope of explaining things. But no, I mean, I think it's a really interesting movie. It's definitely, you know, if I was to throw kind of a general critique of sorts at it, although I don't think it actually hinders the movie as much as it would hinder most movies, is that there's not really like central characters that I think you really get to know or grow attached to. They're kind of, you know, like, there's a few faces you start to recognize because you're seeing them over and over again. There's a couple of small character plot points, but the characters, in terms of actually fleshing out who they are, is just not something this movie even tries to do. It'd probably add like half an hour to the run, because it's only like 90 minutes long, maybe a little bit less than that. I think you would end up at like 2 hours probably, like a modern movie, if you spent more time developing the character relationships and all that.
Yeah, I think they say early on that this ship has like 40 people on it, and you get names and basic traits for, I'd say, at least 10 of them, probably closer to a dozen. Like, it is going through a very large swath of this cast in order to give you not all of the inner workings and fleshing out everything between them, but you get a feeling for how other people see certain characters, and not the, like, I guess the best way to say it is they're using the ensemble to establish the characters and how they are regarded amongst the group, but you don't get the individual breakdowns of how like different relationships work out that much. No,
and it's maybe lacking a little bit on the personal connection to characters, because it's just not really focusing on that or trying to do that. And I think because of that, the first half hour is probably the weakest. Not that it's bad per se. There's definitely interesting setup in there about what this mission is, some of the character things that they do set up that are there, but it's kind of interesting how quickly it gets very interesting once it starts doing kind of more plot stuff, because there's not much plot in the first half hour. I mean, there's a tease of something right at the start, but for the most part, it's like, hey, we're all on this mission, and we're all just, here's a scene with some of them at lunch, here's a scene with like some of them talking on the bridge or talking about what they're doing. But once you hit about the half hour mark, it kind of introduces like a mystery, like here's something to investigate. And from that point on, the movie kind of just keeps a very interesting tone. There's this like almost a spooky quality to one of the scenes that take place not long after that. It feels like it starts to go down different paths where it feels like, this is a few years before Star Trek even started, right? And Star Trek was ahead of its time in some ways too, in that it was tackling kind of like moral dilemmas, and it was trying to do like ethical ideas on TV and all the rest of it. But I certainly don't think it ever hit a tone as dark as maybe some of this felt. And it's not that it's like a super, super dark toned movie compared to like what some modern movies could be by any means, but it definitely feels like it's got a lot more bait to it. Certainly than any sci-fi movie that I can think of from like the previous decade. If I think of sci-fi movies from the 50s, I can't think of anything that feels as like eerie as like the one scene that I'm thinking about in this movie.
I can't guarantee we're thinking about the same scene, but for me, what it was is that a lot of the sci-fi movies, when I think of them, are a lot more on this level of the certainty of death. The idea of, if we don't finish whatever task, we're all going to die. And that's where they build up their tension from. This movie has a very long, drawn-out sequence where it's the uncertainty of death that gets you. You don't know if you're going to end up dead or not because of this thing. And so all of these questions are up in the air of, should we do this? Should we do that? Because of that uncertainty. And to see these characters kind of reason their way through it with this idea of, if they're wrong, they might end up dead. Like, that's something that I think sticks with the audience a lot more.
Yeah. So no, it's an interesting movie. I definitely felt like very quickly, because of the camera work, because of the direction, that it didn't just feel like any other movie from this time period for a sci-fi film. It felt like it was trying to just have more of an atmosphere, build up more tension, not just be kind of simplistic things. Like, because often a lot of sci-fi movies from the 50s, especially stuff in space, it tends to be a lot of like really ham-fisted dialogue about, oh, we have to turn on the Frankenheimer vacuum device 2000 to do this, blah blah. It's a bunch of like nonsense. And I'm not saying this is even like close to scientifically accurate. I don't think it is, but it feels like it's like a simple example I can give is that early on in the movie, and this is almost like kind of an indication of like the fact that it's moving on from what 50s science fiction was, is that we see like a robot kind of shows up on the ship, and it's like a goofy 50s robot. And immediately the characters sort of point at it and go, oh, that thing's ancient and stupid. Why have you brought that with you? And it kind of, it's like, okay, it feels like there's some thoughts went into building this like future. It's set in like the 2160s, right? So we're a good 140 years out from this future that we're seeing.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was 200 years though from the release of the movie, exactly. So that's just how they said it.
Oh yeah, but we're not in 1963.
Oh yeah, no. I know you're right. You just said 140, and I was already thinking about from release of the movie. I was like, wait, that's not right.
I'm living in 2025. Join me anytime you like, David.
Nope, I'm gonna stick in the 90s for a while. I can afford a house here.
Anyway, yeah. So, any other thoughts you'd like to give before we get into spoilies?
I mean, it really does all come down to the technicals, but I will say I really do appreciate the atmosphere. I think that for most of the movie, it does set the series tone. However, the overarching plot, the ideas of following these characters through, it does kind of feel a bit serial in nature. It feels like, everything does follow a cause and effect, but it feels very stop and start. So we'll have X happen, and then that'll kind of come to a complete close, and there'll be a couple ripples that lead into, yes, and then B, and then 1 will follow. But by the time we hit the last stumbling block, it does kind of feels separate. It feels like it's got its ripple effect. It clearly followed out from the earlier things, but it feels like the plot completely came to a stop and then started back up with this new thing. So a little bit on the writing style is that it just feels a bit weak there, but I still like it. I still think it's a solidly made movie no matter what.
I mean, I kind of felt that as soon as we got to like the half-hour mark, it kind of felt a little bit anthology style almost, and it's not actually anthology, but in the way that it feels like, oh, we're going to encounter new things that we have to deal with, and they're going to feel relatively separate. There actually is a connection between them all by the time you get to the ending. You realize what the connection is, but it's going for sort of like, yeah, if they're going on this long journey to this other galaxy, here are the things going along the way that they couldn't have predicted were going to like crop up, things that they were going to have to deal with that they couldn't have seen coming. And I think there's a couple of really interesting visuals, and I actually do want to compliment the writing. Now, not that I disagree with what you were getting at there. It does have this kind of structure to it, and it definitely doesn't try and make you really care about the characters all that much. But barring maybe just like a little light touches, it's very, very stand back from the characters, this movie. But where I do want to compliment the writing, though, is actually just how the ideas that it has and that it introduces, and kind of the way it ponders them, I think is genuinely interesting. And because it is a science fiction movie that, like a lot of the Star Trek, the original series, actually is about just encountering something weird in space. We just run into something and we don't know what it is. It's strange. What do we do about this? That sense of mystery is absolutely there, and it does feel a little ahead of its time in the way that it handles some of it. Because they do feel a little bit bigger and eerier, almost, that cosmic horror of like, how can we comprehend what this thing is? There's it's not much. I don't want to hype it up too much, but there's just a little bit of that in there, a little taste of it that just kind of surprised me. Because again, if I watch a sci-fi movie from the 50s, and I like some cheesy sci-fi movies from the 50s, but they don't have that feeling, almost any of them.
Yeah, again, without spoiling too much of what it actually is, I think that in the hands of like a lesser director or specifically lesser actors, the thing that happens, this cosmic horror thing, could easily have been campy 50s style, where it's just overacting and like falling to the floor and passing out and stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's a little bit weak there, but the way that they handle it here, it feels like the dread. It feels like this is something that is beyond their understanding, and you get that as an audience member rather than it just being a threat in a vague sense.
Well, that's the point I was getting at. It's written that way. Like that's the thing. Like right from the script writing level, it's written to have that feeling, that effect. So, and that's what feels modern about it, right? I mean, that and the direction. I think those are the two things that feel like, oh, like this is shooting for something. This feels like, the director and whoever else had something to prove, and they were trying to do something genuinely quite different and interesting and whatever. And I've never heard of the director, Mr. Jindřich Pollack, if I'm pronouncing that even close to right.
I won't even try to correct you.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, and I'm scanning his IMDb right now, and I'm seeing a lot of Czech looking titles that I don't understand, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But just kind of wild. So this was an interesting pick, I think, and I'm happy we did it. I mean, this will probably be one of the worst viewed episodes on YouTube, I have no doubt.
Oh my god!
But for those of you who check out any episode, regardless, because you're interested in finding the weird little films, I'm glad we did this. This was a good little find to go check out.
I mean, I joked at the beginning about having to join on the Criterion channel to be able to see this, but like if you have access to this movie, I'm specifically talking about the original Czech cut. I cannot vouch for the American one. I do not know, but if we're talking about the Czech cut, then I would absolutely recommend watching it before you watch our review specifically, because I do think it is something that is going to be much more interesting if you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where the original Czech cut wasn't really seen in the rest of the world until decades later, when home video and maybe like a DVD or whatever finally kind of made it available to other parts of the world, because until then it was just on its own country, and the American version was the one that was doing the rounds in most English speaking places. So
I think the version I watched had a text bit at the beginning saying how they remastered the film from negatives in like 2016 or something.
Yeah, I had that too. And it did look quite nice, to be fair. It was a really solid transfer. So, no, it's good stuff. You find that sometimes, because we did The Wicker Man on streams recently, and that also opens with like, this is the final cut and it was restored, blah blah blah, and for all these reasons. So hey, we'll get into spoilers then. So spoilers for Ikarie XB-1 from this point forward, or Voyage to the End of the Universe if you are so inclined. Although this is one of these cases though, like Godzilla, where the American version is specifically got a different title because it does have differences in it. It's not just a case of, oh, they've turned off the subtitles and turned on a dub. No, they've actually re-edited the movie. So there is an important distinction between the two. The main thing's the ending, but we'll get to that later.
I mean, the main thing's the ending. There is apparently like a settings change as well, which obviously is hinted at to begin with. But it more so from what I feel like as I'm reading the description is, they didn't trust Americans to be able to sit and just have a thoughtful film. Like, it's not like it adds action or whatever, but it makes it so, like, everyone's waiting for the twist. Everyone's sitting there like, oh, what's it going to be? What's going to be the big thing? Instead of it just being like, no, we can play things straight. Not everything needs to be a twist.
Yeah, stop hinting. Stop spoiling things. We'll tell them at the end, after we get to the end. Well, yeah, but sometimes there's something special you want to build up to. You don't want to just blow your load at the start.
All right.
Right? There's a way of speaking, okay? There's an order to things. It's not even the movie
we're talking about. That's Voyage. We're talking about Ikarie.
I know, but it's like a treat at the end. You get to find out what they changed at the end of that movie.
Gotcha.
So, anyway, yeah, I mean, the first half hour, which I think kind of sums up, I mean, other than maybe the opening, which is like a tease of where the movie's going later on, because you get a little bit of Mikhail or Michael, I was going to call him Michael.
I was going to say, it's all the subtitles say Michael, despite the fact no one pronounces it as Americanized Michael.
Mine didn't say Michael. It said it was just an A. There was no E at the end.
Oh, okay.
It was Mikhail.
My subtitles had Michael.
Although it sounded like they were saying Mikhail to my ear, like when I was actually hearing what they were saying.
I heard Mikali a few times, like Mikali.
Look, it's a different language, all right?
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, basically he's acting kind of like crazy, and he's yelling that Earth doesn't exist, and like he wants to go back to Earth, but it's not there, and he starts running around, and the others are kind of watching on the cameras, being like, oh god, where's he going? We have to find him. And it just kind of ends with a bit of like a tease of like, okay, or starts with a tease, I should say. Right, we're going to get to a point where a crew member is going crazy and he's a threat to the other people on the ship, right? Now let's take it back. Well, first of all, here's your opening title sequence with someone just going nuts on the electric keyboard that they just bought.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the early 60s. It's going beep, bloop, bleep, 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 bleep. Just going nuts.
I will say, obviously the score is for us, but there is other music throughout the film, and I think they do a great job of giving it a futuristic feel, not in the sense of like what we think is the future, but like taking what their like musical trends were at the time and just projecting that forward and saying, what would music actually sound like in 100 years? And I feel like it got that vibe pretty much down.
Yeah, I mean, once it gets going, you see kind of like the space station that the ship's going to launch from, and people are getting on board, and the camera's kind of, you know, tracking across a bunch of the crew's faces, and it's kind of saying, you know, vaguely who they are in very simple ways. This is the, you know, the captain, this is this engineer, this is this, you know, this is the mathematician who's done all the space, you know, maths, and like he's the one who knows where they're going.
Math.
Yes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess like the big things that stick out of this first half hour, the character things that they do talk about, is that I think it's the captain whose wife didn't come on the trip. Was it the captain? I don't know. Like, this is one of these things where I wasn't really sure which one the captain was for a lot of the movie.
It was really like, there's the older guy who seems to have some level of in chargeness, and then there's the one who he reminded me of Homelander, the actor who plays Homelander. I got real vibes of that from him. Okay. Not in like behavior, but just in looks. And I couldn't tell you what his name was. I think it was McDonald, and he'd be the second in command.
Right, so he's the one with the wife who didn't come.
Yes.
She was supposed to come on the trip. And it's through this, like, because they have a call where they're still close to Earth. I mean, they've launched, but they're still near enough they can have a call, which is something that I have seen done in recent examples as like The Expanse, you know, which is a modern show which kind of prided itself on trying to be accurate. So, but it's interesting because this is where we find out, okay, this mission is going to, it's going to be 15 years will have passed when they come back to Earth. However, for the people on the trip, it's only going to be 28 months. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And they mention, hey, when you get back, you're not going to find me attractive anymore because I'm going to be old. And he's all living. And it's not like said outright in this scene what the reason for it is for it, but you can kind of read because they're also talking about the fact that they're going to have a daughter who's going to be 15 when he gets back, that maybe the reason why she didn't come is because she's pregnant. Which does have a little bit of a payoff, because when he finds out someone else on the ship is pregnant and knew they were pregnant when they came on the ship, he's like, wait, so my wife could have came? And then they say, yeah, your wife knew she could have come, but she chose not to. So that's like a little character bit early on.
I really like that opening bit where he's talking to the wife, because she says it. She's like, oh, and you know, you'll have a 15-year-old that you can talk to at that point. And it's like, wait, what? And then the video starts to fade out, like they're losing signal. And he's like, no, we can't just leave it on that. Get me connected again. And then he gets back with his wife and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you said you're pregnant? That's great. That's awesome. So happy about it. But yeah, then when we get later on in the movie and he finds out that someone else is pregnant, you can tell that he's very upset by that, because again, they've established that idea that she's going to be 15 years older. He's missing, to her, 15 years of being married to him.
Yeah, obviously missing the kids' like early years. I mean, almost all their childhood, really, at that point. But at the same time, you can kind of understand why the wife made this choice. She's like, I don't want my kid to grow up on a spaceship. I mean, it's not even going to be their whole life. It'll only be the first 2 years, but, you know. Right, yeah. But, like, she's like, no, I mean, unless she's cheating on him and she's like, I don't want to go because, you know, I've got, you know, someone on the side. But I suspect that, like, a big part of it was I don't want... I mean, one, no one's ever had birth in space before. They do mention that this is kind of uncharted territory. So maybe she was worried about that. But two, this idea that the first 2.5 years of her daughter's life is going to be on a spaceship, and when they get back, they have no idea what world they're coming back to. Maybe that was, like, a scary thought as well. Like, yeah, what if, like, World War 18 breaks out while we're away and we come back and half the countries are gone?
Gone. I mean, they are set in the future. I guess by their standards, it could already be on World War like 12. Makes sense.
Yeah. That was. I mean, 18's maybe been a bit too cynical, but you know, that was the joke.
I just like the implicit notion that they didn't have any more world wars until they left, and then in 15 years they had an additional 16 world wars.
Oh no! I was meaning they'd already had like most of them. There was just a new one at that point.
Right.
So. It's just a funny thing because this is obviously character stuff, but for the most part, it felt like it was more doing this to kind of like just give these science fiction ideas to the audience. Because I would point out that these ideas, well, they're fairly simple, or like, you know, we've watched a lot of science fiction, and when I say us, I don't even just mean us two on this show. I mean, in general, people have seen enough science fiction now that I think these ideas that they're talking about aren't that surprising, they aren't that complex. But if you imagine an audience in 1963, this would have been fairly fresh stuff, unless you were reading science fiction, I assume.
This is what happened within the past decade for general audiences with multiverse.
Yeah.
Where everyone all of a sudden knows what a multiverse is because just movies all of a sudden very simplistically laid it out and it got into popular culture. This is the one that's just laying down and saying, here's how time dilation works. We're going to explain it in simple terms, and then you get it. And I shortly afterwards, I think there's a sequence where they lay it down again where it's like, oh, this morning it was Thanksgiving. It'll be New Year's by dinner. Because they're relating whatever it is on their ship by whatever time it is on Earth.
Yeah, I imagine someone's got a little like Earth clock ticking really fast somewhere so they can keep a track of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, my cousins just turned 20. That's wild. They were 8 when we left. That's the.
Yep. I think the one line that immediately follows up when it says the Christmas thing is, oh, I'm as old as my youngest sister now, just to give it that little bit of time travel flair.
Yeah, and obviously by the time she gets back, her younger sister will be a good decade plus older than her. Yeah, I mean, it sets that stuff up, and it's interesting. I think it does it in a way that doesn't just, like, I don't even know how to describe this. There's a very specific thing that this movie avoids that I feel like a lot of old sci-fi from the 50s and 60s, like, do, where even when the ideas they're kind of hitting at are kind of like what we, they're ideas that we understand, it feels like they're not thinking about it from a science fiction perspective in a weird way. I don't even know if that makes sense, what I'm saying, but
I think so.
Like, what's the best way I can describe it? Right, this is going to be a weird comparison. So, but for anyone who also listens to Collector's Cut, the other show that me and David do, where we go through movie franchises, we go through directors, like filmographies, but we do a lot of like thrillers, action movies, all that kind of thing. Anyway, we did the Superman season, right? A few months ago, and you know how in like those early Superman movies, as good as they are in a lot of ways, particularly the first two, right? One of the things we kind of kept saying about 3 and 4 is that it felt like they're kind of touching on like, oh, this is almost a Bizarro story, but they're not really properly dipping their toes into it, right, and actually exploring it. This is almost a Red Kryptonite story, but they're not really exploring the idea of it. They're just kind of brushing on it in the most vague, shallow way possible. And then a modern Superman movie, in theory, but not gotten to it yet because we've not done those villains yet, but in theory, would actually kind of explore the idea of what would it mean if he acted out of character? What would it mean if there was a doppelganger who was really dumb, and so on and so on? And this is a really silly thing, but this comparison is kind of as loose as I can really get. But it kind of feels like a lot of sci-fi movies from the 50s and 60s would kind of bring up the vague ideas because they'd want to do one scene where it would allow for that one scene, but they weren't really that interested in actually thinking about it in like a deep script level where we're actually going to have characters talk about the problems that arise in their lives because of this mechanic or what this could lead to. But it felt like this movie, as much as it doesn't go in that deep, it doesn't get to the moment in Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey's bawling his eyes out because of the time passing and whatnot. But this simple idea of just them having this conversation about, oh, this is like where time is on Earth now, and oh my god, my sister's now the same age as me. That just a little moment like that just already felt so ahead of what other movies had been doing in the 50s and 60s to me.
Yeah, no, it's the idea that the 50s used the science fiction aspects for flair. They already had the story, and the story would have continued regardless of whatever science fiction consequences were actually true or false or whatever. Like, they would have easily hand-waved away whatever they needed to get the story going where they wanted to. This is written in the reverse. This is written where if you want to travel there and have it be reasonable within a lifetime, whatever, you are going to have time dilation. What are the consequences of that? And then they just play it out as if, okay, how would people react to that? Oh, well, they would probably be comparing their ages to people back on Earth. And same sort of thing with, keep on bringing up Interstellar, the Matthew McConaughey of, these are the consequences of doing this thing you want to do. How do the characters react to that? It's not flair, it is the base level, and you build off of that.
Yeah, and I think a word you used there that's good is consequences, because it makes it feel like there's like some level of stakes. Like these people are all making a sacrifice. They're all missing 15 years of their loved ones' lives. Like some of them have brought maybe their partner on the ship with them. Like they've come as a couple, but that's just their partner. Like everyone else in their life is going to live for 15 years. Some of them who were already kind of old might be dead by the time they get back. So on and so on. There's a consequence and a sacrifice to what they are doing here, and that sells you on the idea of how important it is. Whereas if you watch a lot of 50 sci-fi movies, it kind of feels like no matter what, everyone's going to be okay, and there's no consequence. Like by the end, we wrapped that up, dun, 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 the end. And again, I'm not bashing those movies. Like they've got a place, and I like a ton of them, and we'll definitely cover more of them as time goes on. But I think this one sticks out because it's so close to those time-wise, and it's before the more modern sci-fi movies started to come into it, that seeing it tackle these little moments and actually address... Because it's not like there's nothing in this that feels like they're just kind of, like, oh, this is just kind of a magic thing that happens. Yeah, that's kind of there too, to some extent. But the balance here is way, way more at a healthy level than like what had come before it.
Oh, yeah. I really like there's a bit very early on after they take off, they start heading off, where they are in the mess hall, and they've got essentially, I forget the name of the Star Trek thing, but the thing that makes food and whatever
the
else it is. Replicator, that's it. They've essentially got a replicator in so much as they talk to the thing and tell it what they want, and then it makes them whatever meal. And one of the guys, the very first thing he does in the very first lunch thing is just try to mess with it. He's like, I want steak grilled bananas, and I want like all this extra like weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. And the replicator just basically gives him like a little wafer or something. I'm not sure exactly what it ended up being.
Yeah, it basically just gave him some weird little square of food that he's like, shit, I guess I get no lunch today now because I try to mess with it.
Right.
But effectively what he did is he went to say it for me. Chat
GPT.
GPT. Chat GPT. Chat GPT.
Yes.
The AI chatbot. And said, you know what, I'm going to ask it a question, but I'm intentionally going to be a dick and ask like something really weird that doesn't make sense and see what it says to me. That's what he just did with the food replicator. It's like the most true to life moment in the whole goddamn movie is someone trying to mess with it.
Right, but you say it's the most true to life in the movie, but like, yes, I agree, it's very true to life, but they keep doing that. There's little things that they keep doing throughout the movie where it feels like these are just actual people. There's one bit very shortly forward where they work on hooking up this young woman on the ship and then another guy there and like trying to get them to start dating.
There's a budding romance where, you know, there's a young woman, there's a young guy, the guy notices her and he kind of asks around, but hey, you know, like, you know, and he talks to her a couple of times. And there's that sequence, which I think you're getting to, where he's bought her some flowers, or he's asked the botanist on the ship to grow a flower. So he's got a flower to take to her, which makes more sense, to be fair. And he goes to her door, and he's sort of standing outside the door, and he's kind of nervous. And we cut to like the main deck of the ship, and there's like a little crowd of the officers like around watching on the cameras. Oh, like he's nervous. Let's give him a help. And one of them like just buzzes to her inside her apartment or quarters is the correct word. And says, hey, you've got a visitor at the door. You should go out and see who it is. So she opens the door and he's got his back to her, sort of like we're building up the nerve to like try and knock on the door and talk to her. And we don't even hear what's said afterwards. We just see like on the cameras from their perspective that, oh, she invites him inside. She seems happy with the flower. And like the door closes and one of them says, right, go into the interior camera. And then the others are like, nah, we're not going to do that. It's a private cabin. Like, away with you.
But it's, again, just that tiny little moment of like, okay, now let's see what they're doing inside. It's just like, nah. All right, we had our fun. Let's back off. Like, that's so natural and so human to me of just, you know, wanting to have fun and just enjoying like getting these two together and then poking fun at it afterwards. This is doing wonders in terms of making me care, maybe not about the individuals because I don't know them independently, but it's making me care about the group as a whole. It makes me want to see them survive and make it through everything that's going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, we've already hit on all the character stuff we really get, to be honest. Like, you've got the second in command, whose wife didn't come, and he's like, a little bit hurt because another woman's pregnant, and he feels a little bit miffed at that. You've got this young guy who's into the young woman, and they seem to be hitting it off. And then you've got the other crew member whose wife is pregnant and is going to have a kid by the end of the movie. We see a little bit of that later, but like, and then the old guy, Arthur, the mathematician, he's the one with the robot, and he likes his retro robot, and that's it. That's all your character stuff. Like, I can't think of anything else that really comes up.
You called him Arthur. I'm sure that was just throwing out a name. It was Anthony, at least in the cut that I watched there.
No, I think you're right.
I want to call out specifically. The Wikipedia article says his full name is mathematician Anthony Hopkins, and that's very confusing to me.
I'm going to check something because I've got the wiki page up as well. It does say Anthony Hopkins. It does say it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anthony Hopkins did not begin acting in anything major until at least like the 70s. So just a coincidence, but it's weird.
Oh yeah, of course it's just a coincidence. It's like oh god, what movie is it? There's a really crappy horror movie, I think, from like the late 80s, early 90s, but the main kid in its name's Harry Potter. And it's just a complete coincidence that it's the same name as what ended up being a big thing. I do not remember off the top of my head. David's clearly Googling, he wants to know what the answer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Troll?
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah. Troll 2?
Yeah. Michael Moriarty stars as Harry Potter. Not Troll 2, just Troll.
The first Troll, okay. All right. Yeah, because you've seen Troll 2, because we did that in Extra Reels.
I have, yeah. I would have made mention of a Harry Potter popping up in that.
Yeah, so that's just one of those things. I remember that weird bit of trivia, because it's like just weird that there was a Harry Potter randomly in a movie long before. It's the same way, I mean, this isn't quite the same, because it's not a character. But when you go to watch the original Child's Play, the first Chucky movie, and it comes up saying directed by Tom Holland, you're like, wait, Spider-Man made this before he was born? That's wild.
Absolutely. It just makes you wonder if current Tom Holland is secretly a junior and he just never told anybody.
I mean, it's not impossible that he moved to England, I guess, but I mean, they are from different countries.
Fair.
So yeah, I mean so the first half, like, I mean, because I think towards the end of the first half hour, they have like a party or a gathering in the cafeteria, and like that was the point where I'm like, okay, like this has done a lot of solid setup, and I've been liking a lot of it. This party feels like it's going on a little bit. Like I'm sick of them dancing with each other now, and then almost just as I had that thought, like an alarm, like the computer started yelling, "Hey, like get up to your stations. There's something outside. There's an object of some kind, blah, blah, blah." And then that's when we get into kind of our first real plot segment of the movie. And, stuff gets pretty good here, because, they look outside like, oh, there's something out there. And it looks like a ship. I mean, it looks like almost like a classic flying saucer with a couple of antennas on it, if nothing else. And they're like, shit, are we finding, like, because we're on our way to a place where we think life might be, and if they've got ships of their own, is this one of theirs? Like, is this our first encounter with alien life? And it turns out not to be that, but it's like, it's fascinating just them looking at it and being speculative. And then, of course, two of the guys are like, hey, right, you two get in your spacesuits, we're sending over a shuttle, let's go and investigate. And I think the computer even says as well, oh, there's like organic material on board as well, it's not just like metal and stuff.
Yeah, that's why they see it's the ship, and they're like, oh, but everything's dead, right? And they're like, it has organic material. It's like, what? All right, let's go. But I love they take probably a good 5 minutes of just sitting down and saying, like, what are our options? Do we just, like, let's keep on sending out this signal, see if they respond. If they're not responding, do we send robots? How would we like it if, like, robots were sent to us? Would we respond well? Probably not.
I like that part of it, actually. It's like, okay, if there's people on board, because keep in mind, they said organic materials there. They didn't see anything was a lie. The computer doesn't know that. The computer just knows that there's because they're dead, right? When we get there, they're dead. But but they're saying, okay, but if there's beings on there, why aren't they responding with something? Why aren't we getting some kind of signal back? And it's like, well, maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't know if we're hostile. And like, I mean, that would make them a lot like us, because we'd be pretty scared too, I think, if, like, I mean, we're a little bit worried about who they are. Like, there's a very thoughtful thought process to like all the options that you say.
It feels a little bit, because obviously this was a Czech film, it does feel a little bit like they're doing a Cold War sort of thing, where it's just two entities standing off, waiting for the other one to make a move. And it's like, who's going to be the one that actually does something first?
Yeah, if anything, this is other than just the idea of like finding something in space and investigating it, this debate probably feels the most Star Trek out of the whole movie, because I can, especially like Next Gen, I can imagine Picard and Data and Riker sitting around having this conversation.
Riker would just be saying, put me in a suit, get me over there. I want to check it out.
Yes, I'll find whatever chairs they have and I will sit on them weirdly, because that's my gimmick.
Yes.
So two guys get into the spacesuits and they travel over to the ship. They're able to dock with it, right? They keep their suits on, of course, because they don't know what condition it's in, and they go in. And we get a nice extended, like 5 to 10 minute sequence of them searching this ship, and everything's like super, atmospheric. It's really dark, and they've got like lights on their chest plates, so they're lighting things up. But it's very much like a torch, in the sense that outside of that field of light, it's just darkness. So you get this really spooky vibe as they're going around, and then quite quickly they're finding dead bodies. They also say a couple of things that are interesting before they even get to the bodies, like, oh, this metal's like so and so, like it's kind of like, it's ancient by our standards, it's like medieval times, and it's like, wait, what does that mean? And they're looking through the ship, and then when they do get to like seeing people, at least they find one dead body, then they find more, and it's like, wait, they're holding playing cards and there's like money as if they were playing poker or something, and they're looking around and they sort of realize that this is a ship from the 20th century of Earth. This is like some ship that another country, presumably America. I mean, it definitely seems like an English-speaking ship at the very least.
They specifically point out, at least in one of the recaps, that it's capitalists, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably just America. That's probably what we did.
Yeah. Also, it's got a lot of weapons on it, which also feels very American.
We don't go anywhere without that. No, I really like how they look around and you don't immediately see any human bodies or anything, but then they notice numbers on the wall, and like, they're normal Arabic numbers.
Yeah, there are numbers.
Like 6'4", and it's just like, wait a minute, hold on. How would aliens have that? That doesn't make any sense. And that's where it starts unraveling, and they start seeing all the different things. But they still don't know when it's from, so they have to like call it back over to the ship, say, here's something we saw, here's something else. Basically Google that, see what it comes up with, and they get, oh, this was something from the 1980s or whatever. Like, this is, it's still set after this movie came out.
Yeah, it's still the future.
Yeah.
Which again is a very Star Trek-y thing, actually, because they'll reference like something that happened in the 90s, which at the time was the future for Star Trek, but obviously we are way past that now.
Right.
No, because it's interesting, because even once they find the dead bodies, and they start having that thought process of talking it out, where the two guys are talking back to the people on the ship, and they're like, well, they're all dead, and they seem to have all died at the same time, but they're also not like they're all just like, they were in positions where they weren't that worried. Like they're you know, they're sitting at a poker table, they've maybe fallen over now, but they're just kind of like wherever they were. And then obviously see that canister of like the toxic gas, which it's like a nerve gas weapon. It's a fake, but you know, it's a futuristic thing that they're saying was existing back in the 80s. And there's a moment where like someone on the ship, we cut back and like, the damn 20th century, all those bad things that happened, Hiroshima, Auschwitz, and he just starts listing things, and I'm like, damn, like they're going off on the filmmakers are going off in their own century right now.
Oh yeah, because they're literally pointing out, it's just like, this is a group of people who they know came from a very tough time in human history, a time that they are not proud of in the future, where bad things happen. And these are a group of people who, from everything they can tell, just got up and left. They were like, screw this planet. We messed it up enough. We're going to go off and do something else. And that's more or less, then they ended up dying up there, but they're absolutely not looked upon fondly. However, they're not looked upon fondly specifically after what happens on the ship, because clearly that's a downer. Yeah,
well, I mean, before we even get to that, there's more to unravel. That's part of what I liked about this sequence, is that there was like so much to unravel about just what this ship is and what these people, what happened to these people, why are they here? So we've kind of established why they're here to an extent with like the history, but it's like, okay, what happened? And when they get to like the cockpit or the bridge, whatever you might call it, and it's like, hey, like these two guys are dead, and one's got there's like a gun on the floor, one's actually been shot in the back, so like one betrayed the other. And they basically deduce from what they're saying that they trapped themselves in here because they knew the rest of the crew were dying. And because the oxygen was running out, they ended up fighting over, like, you know, who gets to live longer because they can kill the other one to survive a little bit more. And that's how it, you know, ended up in this sort of barbaric, like, fight for life. And this actually leads to, like, one of the most outrageously fantastic shots in the whole movie, which I've never seen done like this before, is there's like a close-up of like the skeleton of like maybe the captain or whoever it is that ended up sitting at the front of the ship. And it's like, obviously they've been here for so long that the skin and the flesh is deteriorated and it's basically just powder now, but it's still kind of held on like gunk to the skeleton. But because these two guys are moving around, like a little like vibration or whatever just makes the guy's like flesh fall off his skeleton to reveal the bare skeleton. And I was like, it's like a 1 second shot, but I literally sat up and went, holy shit, that was creepy and awesome.
No, absolutely. I watching that sequence play out, I was obviously, you know, once they say it's humans, I don't think that this is going to be something where like something's going to pop out. I don't think it's going to be something where all of a sudden we've got like an alien invader or anything like that. But that one moment filled me with just as much like dread and just as much like, oh God, they are really swinging for the fences here than any sort of alien probably could have at this time.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know there wasn't going to be an alien entity or something, because like I had no idea what the plot of this movie was, other than just they're on a ship.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, yeah, maybe something just comes aboard the ship from this ship, and that's not what happens. What actually happens is when they go looking further, like one of them, like their mag boots, because they've got like boots that light up, and the mag boots keep them like tied to the ship, which again is something that I've seen in a lot of other sci-fi since here. But they get their foot stuck, and then they look over, and like I think because they hit a lever that was there, the nuclear bomb that is stationed there, and maybe this is one of the more like sillier, unrealistic parts, is this idea that this just leads to the bomb going off. But either way, this nuke starts like sort of like lowering down in its mechanism and like going over to this door, and the two like astronauts that are over here are like, oh, we have to get out of here right now, like, you know, abandon, get back to the ship. But they don't make it. They're on the way back to the ship, and it just goes like the bright white just hits them, and it's like the entire ship blows up, and it cuts back to the others on the main ship, and they're just like, oh shit, we just lost two people, like they're dead. Like, it actually had a lot of impact, like for two characters who I can't name and couldn't even told you who they were before they went over there. Like, they did make this work. Like, it had a bite to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that was the thing when they're doing a whole bit where they're talking at the beginning of, oh, who should we send over? Who are going to be our two guys? And then they cut to these two guys in the spacesuits. I'm like, it's Fred and John, I guess. Like yeah. Whoever these two are. Like, it doesn't make any difference to me. But they do a great job of not making it feel like they were red shirts. It made it feel like this was an actual impactful death to the rest of the crew, and these people are very upset that it happened. Also, like we said, this is where the monologue happens with them saying like, damn that 20th century and their violence and all the ways that they're horrible, unlike us in the future where we're all cool and chill.
I mean, if anything, them going over there made me think at least one of them definitely wasn't going to be a red shirt, because I thought, well, them being the two that go, I can see one of them maybe dying if something bad happens over there, but I feel like one of them's now going to be one of the main characters because they went over there and saw stuff. But no, they both just die. They're just gone, and it feels like it has a bit of impact, and you know they feel the weight of this, and that kind of wraps up like a chapter here. Like this is kind of over, and they're all kind of depressed about it, but like, you know, the journey must go on. We're still going to Alpha Centauri, so let's go. And then the next segment is that a couple of them have to go outside the ship, including Mikhail, to fix an antenna or something. It doesn't really matter, but they're out fixing something on the outside of the ship. And they come back in, and there's narration here in like retrospect where it's like, you know, we didn't know at the time, but they brought something back in with them. It turns out to be some kind of well, later on they specify it's like radiation from something. We'll get to what that something is in a minute, because I think that's actually a really important thing to talk about, like, and give it the weight that it deserves. But basically, they start, like, one of them, I think it's Mikhail first, who just like falls asleep, and the computer freaks out and says, hey, crew member down, like, I think they're dead, like, go check them. And they go and check him, and they wake up, they just sort of give him a little slap, and he's like, oh no, I must have fell asleep, that's weird, I fainted. It's like, okay, well, that's not a good thing, but like, it's not that bad, like, hey.
I'd also be much more concerned as a crew member if the first time someone just faints, it says they're dead. Like, I feel like that's going to lead to some bad consequences, but whatever. Well,
I think what they were going for with that is that to the computer, he was dead, because whatever this is making him appear legitimately dead, even though he wakes up quite easily once they give him a little slap. But then they realize that the second guy, right, it's the two people who went out or got the sleep virus, if you want to call it that. And then everyone starts feeling sleepy. And we actually get like an extended portion here where they're all like struggling to stay awake, and they're kind of like slouching, and they're actually starting to get worried, like, yeah, but if we all fall asleep, will we ever wake up? Like, that's actually the concern now. And, you know, they talk about how as time went on, they were turning on more and more of the automated systems and robots to keep things running, but like, you know, it's really dangerous to have no humans like overseeing the running of the ship, and the captain's like trying his damnedest to stay awake. So, you know, we'll go back and talk about the other things that happen here, but like when we get to the end of the segment and the captain does eventually pass out, and he's like trying to send a message back to Earth just to warn them, hey, if you come out this way again, like there's something here, there's something that's doing this to us, you have to be aware of it. I thought, like, this is such a unique like premise, this segment, that they're all just like falling asleep and they're struggling and they're really trying to stay awake.
I I love this segment because it would be, if we're looking back at like a 50s, like a more campy thing, it would be something of, oh, there's a, a space virus or whatever, and we don't know if we have a cure, yada, yada, yada. And they would end up finding a cure at the last second and there wouldn't be any issue. What I love about this is that there is no cure, and it is literally just, we need to go to sleep. We'll wake back up once we'll get to the cause of it, but we'll wake back up once that's passed, and then everything will be okay. But the one guy, the second in command, his whole thing is, if we don't wake up, we're dooming all of ourselves if we don't go to sleep. We have an exit button, which is turn the ship around now, and we'll at least go back to Earth, and someone will at least find us, and maybe they can do something about it. But that will at least do something. If we keep going forward, there's zero hope. And the actual first in command, the commander, is like, the hope is that we are just going to wake up. And like, we can't just give up on the whole mission because of that. We have to keep on moving forward here. And I love that dichotomy because neither one of them is right or wrong. It is literally just a difference of opinion in here. And it's how they decide whether or not the mission is more important than their lives as a whole.
And Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter here, he's like, hey, I predict it'll be about 36 hours of sleep or something like that. And then
it's 60.
Or 60. And then we should wake up. And it's like, yeah, should's that's a pretty big should. Like, that's a lot to bank on us just waking up. But the cause of this is great, though, because I think it is him who notices it, where, and the narration's kind of like talking, he's the one that discovered what was causing this. And, it's almost, everyone missed it, but he just got caught a glimpse. And he's looking out the front of the ship, and he's just looking at space. And he's like, oh, there's like 3 stars, it seems like, are kind of blinking in and out of existence. That's kind of weird. What's going on there? Mm-hmm. And again, like, this is like one of the 2 visuals. So the visual with the skeleton was the first one, which blew me away because it was just such a cool thing that I've never seen done before. Mm-hmm. This is the one that's like, oh, this feels like cosmic horror. What this, like, this is such a simple thing. Is that they call it a dark star, but it's effectively just a black circle. But because it's space, you can't see a black circle unless, like, stars are behind it or something to give it a little. And they do a thing here where they just shine enough light at it. However they did this effect, whatever miniature they were using to get the shot, they just gave it enough light for a split second where you could see the rim a little bit, and then it would just fade into the darkness again. And I'm like, that is so ominous. That there's just this thing out there that you cannot even really see outside of the odd little glimpse when the light hits it just right.
Yeah, the way they were talking about it, I absolutely thought that this was going to be sentient. This was going to be like a thing that was purposefully, like, again, getting to the cosmic horror aspect. Like, here's the thing beyond your comprehension, beyond your scale, you have no way of dealing with, and you're just at its beck and whim. And the thing that they very quickly understand here is that the radiation, or at least the proximity of being close to this dark star, is messing with their biorhythms or whatever, and that's why they're all feeling tired and they're all falling asleep here.
Also why Hannibal Lecter can give a prediction as to when they'll wake up, because the ship will keep going and eventually get far enough away from it that they'll get out of the radius and they'll be fine. Mm-hmm. That's the hope anyway, right? And so and once that happens, and that's the thing, is they actually wake up a bit earlier than they were expecting. They're like, hey, it was only about 25 hours. Like,
Yeah, I love that sequence because the last guy, he falls asleep. Like, his finger's about to press the button to turn around, but he doesn't do it and he falls asleep. And then there's a good, 2-minute segment of the AI on the ship just basically saying, like, 3rd shift taking over. Nobody's reporting for 3rd shift. Automated things kicking in. 1st shift taking over. And it goes for 3 shifts to show they have all been asleep for a while here.
Yeah. So there's a question of why did we wake up early? And there's a quick scene in the cafeteria because they're all eating, right? They're all starving because they've all been asleep for 25 hours. And I like that detail. They're all sitting with a lot of food because we've all been sleeping for the last 25 hours. And Anthony Hopkins is sitting there going, I think it might be because of this, or maybe we got there's a sort of bounce back effect, and that kind of woke us up early. And it turns out not to be that. We actually have a pretty definitive answer once we get to later in the movie. But it's I love that they're trying to figure it out because it should have been longer. He doesn't know why they woke up so early, and he's trying to think of a reason that he can just sort of pull out his ass, but he's not, he's not really confident
He literally says the line earlier on of, "I'm a mathematician, not a prophet, damn it." And I'm like, that's just the Star Trek thing. You're just pulling the doctor line out.
Yeah. So this is pre-Star Trek.
Right, exactly.
Like this stuff is really fascinating. And of course, the thing that happens after is everyone is fine except the two guys that went outside, right? So one like gets really sick, has bad rashes or whatever over his face, and then Mikhail's the other one, and they don't know where he is. And this is where it kind of links up to what the movie started with, is that this is where he's looking a bit sickly, and he's losing his mind a little bit, and he's wandering, because when the first guy gets sick, they're like, okay, where's the other one? We have to get him to medbay. And they can't find him at first. They're sort of like, oh, look at this corridor, look at that corridor. And then it becomes this kind of hunt for him. And this ends up being kind of most of the sort of the third act kind of like, action is like trying to find him, and him maybe being a danger to the ship because maybe he'll try and sabotage the ship because he wants to turn around and go back to Earth.
Yeah, he sets up a blockade. Like, they find him, he pulls down a big like blast door or whatever, and he is on the side with all of their automated systems, and he starts shutting them down. And they're like, also on that side is like ventilation and air creation, so maybe we should deal with that immediately.
Yeah. That's kind of a lot of the sequences is like them trying to figure out where he is, and like one guy, I think it's the second in command, is like, hey, I think I can get to where he is through like the central shaft. So he puts on a spacesuit and he goes through this.
I don't want to overshoot the fact of we get the payoff for the 50 styles looking robot Patrick.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, where they pull down the blast door and they're like, well, he's got literally the only gun that we have on the ship. He's got a blaster on his side. How are we supposed to get in? And then Anthony Hopkins steps up and says, I believe Patrick could be of use. And it turns out he's got like a welding tool built into his arm, and he starts cutting through the door. However, Mikhail sees that that's happening, ends up shooting Patrick through the door, and we've lost our good boy.
Well, anyways, he started blasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like the second command does a bit of a climb and gets to this other part of the ship. It's basically the equivalent of John McClane going through an air duct to get to another part of the building. And I loved it when he gets in and he sort of looks around the corner. He sees him and he hides because he knows, he's a bit off kilter right now. He's holding that phaser. He might shoot at me. I have to try and be gentle about it. Because, part of me thought, maybe he's even going to try and rush him, like sneak up behind and grab him. Not hurt him, but just like, grab him, get rid of the gun so they can then, take care of him, like, whoever. He ends up sticking his head out a couple times and he knows he's there. So he's like, hey, buddy, like, maybe give me that phaser. Let's not do this. Like, if you want us to turn the ship around, go back to Earth, we can do that. We're going to go back. Like, I promise you. Maybe after we've done our mission, which was always the plan. But like, we'll definitely go back. I promise you, Earth is still there. And he talks him down, and he threatens to shoot him. And ultimately, he kind of just talks him down by saying, "Hey, are you really going to shoot your friend?" And he kind of like that breaks through to him enough, which is kind of nice in a way that this movie kind of wraps up its like threat with like just breaking through on a human level. Like, maybe you don't want to do this, right? And the reason, by the way, I never mentioned this, but they basically say that because the two that went outside weren't as protected by the ship from the radiation, that's why they're the ones getting like properly sick and going a bit bananas. And
it does it a great way too, because you see it like those two were the first ones affected, and then I think the next one affected is someone has a dog on this ship. There's just a little dog running around, but he's the next one who falls asleep and is like unable to be woken up. And so you get this vibe of like, oh, okay, those two were affected first because of the radiation, and then smaller creatures, and then it just slowly starts affecting the rest of the crew. So you get this feeling they thought about it. It's not just random how it starts hitting across. But what I really love is while they are looking for Mikhail, they have put together the idea that it's the two of them because they were the ones outside the ship. The one guy's already in the med bay. He's getting treated. They got to find Mikhail. But the second in command's running around saying, have you seen him? Have you seen him? Where is he? Where is he? And he's causing a little bit of a panic. And one of the women on the ship, forgive me, I forget her name, basically goes around everybody. He's just like, hey, it's okay. It's because he wasn't shielded. It's because he was outside the ship. Everyone else is safe. But they have no idea. Like, you can tell that she's not totally convinced by that argument either. Like, they know that that's the reason that they have rashes and blisters right now, but we don't know whether or not this is something that's going to be impacting all of them eventually, whether or not this is something that's going to be the final fate for all of them.
It seems like it's not going to be. I mean, the movie never hints that it's going to spread beyond those two. I'll clarify one thing there. I said that it was this that was making him go a little bit crazy. Arguably, that's not true. Arguably, it's just making him sick, because the first guy who gets sick, the other one who was outside, is just sick, and he's just lying in medbay. Mikhail was shown earlier on to have a couple of moments where he was like staring out at space and like sort of, just getting like lost staring kind of thing. So it was maybe implying that he was already a little bit stir crazy before, and the sickness has kind of pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, there was a sequence where I think it's the captain comes up and he just tries to relate a funny story to Mikhail, but he has, I guess, it's hard to pick up in the subtitles, he has a couple of like vocal quirks. He has a couple of sayings that he says repeatedly, and as he says one of those, Mikhail just drops and he's just like, shut up, stop talking, stop saying those things over and over again, and then you keep on like rubbing your lip when you talk. That's so annoying. What's wrong with you? And you just see the captain like, you good, bro? And he's like, yeah, sorry, just a little bit pent up. And he's like, okay, it's good, don't worry about it. But you get that for his character. So when we hit this end bit here, you can see he's completely broken. He's absolutely just not wanting to be here. Yeah.
So he was already kind of showing signs of, maybe he wouldn't have reacted like this if he'd never gotten sick, but that was before any radiation. It was before they even found the ship, I think. Maybe it was after that, but I think it was before that.
Around there, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and so ultimately, though, they get him back, and, I was thinking at this point, oh man, we're really near the end of the movie. Like, there's not much left. Like, how are we wrapping this up and maybe explaining some of these things? And we get to this interesting thing where, whoever's doing the sciencey stuff on the ship is like, hey, there's been a force field of some kind around us, a signal around us, ever since the Dark Star, and it's coming with us. It wasn't part of because I think the first they assumed it was something to do with that itself, but it's moving with them. It's not staying back where the Dark Star is. So they're like, wait, so it's something that's arguably, and then they sort of come to the conclusion that it's protected them, right? And the reason why the people inside the ship aren't getting sick is because they were in this protective bubble, effectively. And like, wait, if this is something that was sent to us to protect us, then that means there's life. That means someone knew we were in trouble and that we wouldn't be prepared for it and sent in this bubble to keep us safe. And they're like, holy shit. And we're almost, we're just arriving. We're at Alpha Centauri. So we get our ending.
They're coming to these conclusions. And then there's literally a guy who basically busts in the room and goes, land ho! And it's saying how they are arriving at the white planet, which I guess was their destination this whole time.
Well, I think earlier on they said there was 2 possible planets that could have life on it. But I guess this is the one that they get to first that is near the Dark Star.
This is the one with Matt Damon on it.
Very good. And the movie just like, it's like they're like, oh, what are we going to find here? Like, what are these life forms going to be like? And the movie does give you some kind of sense. Like the final shot of the movie is basically like a viewfinder looking down through the clouds, and then the clouds clear, and you see what looks like a civilization. There's roads, there's streets, you're very high up, so you don't get like a lot of detail, but you get the sense of infrastructure, you get the sense of an urban setting, you get the sense of a city, and it fades to black. And it's like, we're not going to like answer what they're like, because that's better left to the imagination, because this is not about answering what alien life is going to be like. It's just the reveal is there is an advanced civilization, at least advanced, if not more advanced than us, and they've found it. The end. It works. It's a good final moment.
Yeah. Also, just to make clear, we skipped over the pregnant lady had her baby right after Mikhail got caught. So there was also the thing of like, look, new life. We've done it. It's healthy. It's fine. Everything's cool.
Yeah. And maybe they're going to name it after the 2 guys that died on the other ship. They got nuked.
I'm going to name it whatever that guy, I called him Jeff. I'm going to call him Jeff Patrick. Patrick after the robot.
Oh, yes. The robot can be fixed. Well, maybe not, because it's ancient. Maybe there's no parts for it anymore.
I was going to say, nothing on that's coming back. At least not until they get back to Earth, maybe.
That's like you've got a VCR in 2025 that's broken down. You're like, hey, can someone fix this, please? No.
Take it into Best Buy, they just laugh at you.
We literally don't have like an item in our spreadsheets for a VCR anymore, and haven't for 20 years at this point. So
I honestly, Pete, I'm just going to go ahead and say you could probably say the same about DVD players at this point. It's probably close to that.
You say that, but they still sell more than Blu-rays.
Really? Do they?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The filthy casuals don't care about quality, you see. So it is what it is.
I'll stick to my 144p streaming services. Thank you very much.
Very good. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, teased the difference with the ending in the American version. So
yes.
The one thing it said is that they changed all the names at the start and the titles to be more readable for American audiences.
Music by Bob Smith. Casting by Jane Addams.
So there's that. And they cut out 10 minutes, which I assume is just sort of sprinkled throughout to speed everything up. But the
from what I read, it was actually mostly in the beginning. Like they were cutting out a lot from the beginning stuff.
Fair enough. But the main ballsy difference is the ending, where they cut out the final shot of the movie and replaced it with their own. And their own similar idea is that it's looking down at the city, except they've replaced it with what is clearly, I think, New York. Like the whole idea was, the twist is that, I don't even know if they necessarily thought about exactly what the twist was. Like, did we somehow circle back to Earth, or did we time travel to Earth in the past? Because my thinking is when I first read that difference, I was like, wait, like present day Earth? So they're going to be like, wait, we're in the 20th century, and maybe that ties into the other ship being from the 20th century or something. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I was reading different things or whatever, but from what I gathered, and I can't say this is certain, is that they basically they never said they were going to the white planet; they were going to the green planet. And
yeah, well, no, it did mention that. It mentioned
yeah. And the idea of it is that we never said that we were leaving Earth to begin with. We were leaving a planet. So I think the implication is humanity was already a spacefaring species, and we were heading back to Earth without, like, it had lost its importance to us or whatever else, and so we were just coming back there, and now it's its own thing. And Statue of Liberty maybe in the same sort of state as like Planet of the Apes or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, in this version, it's clearly left Earth. That's not even up for debate. Yes. So
absolutely.
Well, how does the mystery work then, if they were always just going back to a place they know?
Well, that's just, I think the idea is that they know that they're going back to Earth, but the idea of it is that the audience does not know, and they keep on referencing it as a green planet. So it's like, oh, we're going to this alien world that's all green or whatever, and then it's, that turns out it was Earth. Ha ha.
But why would they say that if they all know it's Earth? Why would they say that in the movie?
Stuff they cut out, stuff they changed in the dub beats me, but at some point it's they came from an alien. I mean, honest to God, it might be that they are implying that the crew of the Ikarie are not human themselves, that they are just kind of Star Trek aliens, where it's like, oh, they look human, but they're not, and this is their alien spaceship coming to Earth.
I can see that more likely than them going back to Earth. I never got the idea that they're going back to Earth. I think it's meant to be a surprise to them that this is what the green planet ended up being. It was definitely what I got from the description I read.
Gotcha. All right.
But yeah, because it doesn't make any sense. Because there's no mystery if they know where they're going the entire goddamn time.
Yeah.
I mean, unless the dub really just takes liberties and completely changes, because I'm assuming that the dub still says they're going to Alpha Centauri. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
no, I doubt that. I doubt they say that. They probably got rid of that.
Okay, well, regardless, I mean, it ends with, hey, lol, they were going to Earth the whole time. Whatever context that was taking form with whatever changes they made in the dialogue earlier on. So they completely changed the point of the movie. So, yeah, try not to watch that version, I guess. Unless you've already seen this version and you want to see it for the giggles. In which case,
I mean, I kind of do now. I kind of want to know exactly what they did change, but I'm only going to be watching probably like the first act and the last 10 minutes. I doubt I'm going to go through all the middle bits because regardless of what changes they make there, I doubt it's going to impact the plot as a whole.
Yeah. I bet that version's not been remastered, though. I bet that looks like shit.
Oh, no. It's going to be garbage. You kidding me?
Because no one cares about remastering that version. It's not the real movie. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think the actual ending, though, is quite reserved. It's quite, you know... And if I was to critique anything here about the build-up to the end, is that it does come very sudden. You know, when I said that, you know, there's like 5 minutes of the movie left and we just wrapped up the stuff with Mikhail, and it's like... just very boom, 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 here we are. I like everything it does. It just kind of feels like maybe a little bit, maybe another speculative scene of them talking about the fact that they're almost there. Like, what do you think we're going to find? That might have been good just to sort of build up to it a little bit. But, you know, I like what it does with the final shot. I like the idea that it doesn't answer it too much. It's just, no, civilization, leave everything else to the imagination.
Yeah. That's fair. I guess for me, it did feel a little bit lackluster. I'm not saying that I want to see like what is actually down on the planet, but I do think that, you know, we didn't talk that much about how the special effects are done in space. It is very much just kind of like wires and strings and stuff on a starry backdrop.
It's old school stuff. There is one little moment actually when I think it's when the shuttle's like detaching from the ship to go over to the 20th century ship. Where they try to make it look like there's a person inside the window of the shuttle, but the way they've masked it on is kind of weird, where his head kind of goes in front of the edge of the window at one point, and I thought, that would could have done better with that effect. Otherwise, though, I think it's fine in the old school way that it is. Like, I'm not like, you know.
It is, but that's what I'm saying is that this end bit, I think if they were to have done this shot and really somehow given the spectacle, given this thing up, we can just see that it's a civilization, but see, you know, maybe an idea of like how utopian they are or how widespread across this planet they are. Really just make it something that is more visually interesting than just what is probably a helicopter shot over like downtown, whatever Czech city there is, Prague.
I mean, I don't know about see how widespread it is. I don't know how you show that in one shot, and I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
I think, to me, the reason why you don't have to show that it's a utopia per se, I think the simple fact that they like sent something out, this force field out to protect this group of strangers on a ship, already tells me that they are kind, that they are benevolent, that they are at the very least not going to shoot first. And that implies a lot about where they are in their society versus like where we were in 1963 at the very least.
When I say utopia, I'm not saying because I want to know their morality or anything like that. I'm just saying from a purely visual spectacle idea. I feel like the last shot, while it does get the point across, it does like it feels like a very sudden, okay, and there it is, fade to black. Like, I think if you just had a more vivid shot, it would have felt a lot more impactful as an ending.
I mean, what are you thinking of? You're like a shot that looks like it's from The Fifth Element with a bunch of flying cars darting around?
No,
or?
I'm even just saying. So we had that shot of the Dark Star with like that light rim around it that just showed the outline of it. If you showed just like, you know, in the background, the ship coming in slowly, making its landing, and there's just maybe a backlit shot of a planet that shows like spires coming off of it, just like big towers or something like that, something to just show that this is a fully advanced civilization capable of, you know, projecting force fields out into deep space. I think that would have been something that would have been very visually stunning instead of just what is essentially a shot of Earth, just a panning over of that.
Okay, but a serious question though, how are they doing this in 1963?
That's the thing. And like, I realize they're on a limit. I don't know what I'm expecting for them to do on their budget and at the time, but I can dream, can I?
I mean, best you'll get is like a matte painting with like maybe a couple of blinking lights. Like if you wanted to do something truly, you know,
I'd be fine with that.
I don't know. I think I like how far back it is in terms of you can just make out infrastructure and that's it. Like, you know, fade. Like it's like it leaves it truly to the imagination. Like it could be as advanced as what you're thinking. We just don't know. I actually kind of appreciate that. I do think that it does come quite abruptly though. I'll say that much. Like I could have used a little bit of build up to that final, 5 minutes. But
I mean, honestly, another thing they could have done, they kind of do it. They do it in a weird, giving everybody like a final line or two. They cut around the crew and everyone's just excited because it's like, oh, there's life on this planet or whatever. But I think if they were to have like swelled the music and just done like everyone standing at the front window, like looking down at this planet, maybe cutting between like a couple of the individual faces that we spent a lot of time with, I think that also could have worked, of just saying, look how far we've come as a crew. We made it through all that.
All right, David, what are you rating Ikarie XB-1 out of 10?
I feel like I said the exact same thing for our last one of Save the Green Planet, but I went into this not really expecting it to get much, because like, not only is it a foreign film, so it doesn't have like the backing of the Hollywood studio system behind it. Not only is it from the 60s, so I was kind of expecting it to be campy, but like, it also just has a zero public awareness. Like, I had never heard of anything about this movie. So nothing in this was screaming that I was going to enjoy myself. But coming out of it, I really did. Like, it was a good movie. It was very well made. I think there was a lot of positive aspects to it. I don't know if it'd be the kind of movie that I would go around suggesting that the average layperson go and check out. This feels like a very sort of niche interest kind of movie, but for anyone with any interest in cinema, I definitely think it's worth checking out. But I'd say collectively, it gets an 8 for me.
Yep, 8 out of 10 is exactly what I was landing on. I think the visuals been the main thing. The way it handles sci-fi idea has been almost as good. It feels ahead of its time. I love discovering a movie that I hadn't heard of. I love that we can go into something fairly blind and come out. Now, Save the Green Planet wasn't that for me because I'd seen that before. Right. But you got 2 in a row where you went in with no expectations and came out on top. So, how about that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
If only we could keep that up for the Scanners sequels. I need those to be okay.
Yeah, it's a little while before we get to Scanners 3 just yet. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
I mean, that about wraps up the review. Obviously, normally David has his homework movie at the end, but he's getting married like in a matter of days, and he used that as some excuse that he didn't have time to watch another movie. So sorry, folks, your bonus 5-minute segment at the end will have to wait until next time.
What's going to be great is that once I get married, I'm going to use that as the excuse for why I don't use homework. I'll be like, but I just got married. What am I supposed to do?
You've been living like you've been married for like years at this point.
But I have to unbox all these wedding gifts, Pete. It eats up so much time.
It's 2025. They're mostly vouchers. You don't have to unbox anything.
Fair.
Here's your $20 to your Bed Bath & Beyond. That's an American store, right?
That is a bankrupt American store, but yeah.
Fair enough. I don't know all your stores. That was just the first one I went with. Where do you buy your Tupperware from then? Where does that come from?
I mean, for me personally, Amazon, because I'm a show like that. But
okay, right, fine.
Yeah, Target. That's kind of the big
Target,
one.
I guess. I assumed there would still be a place where you go for your home furniture and appliances and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised how much furniture you can get off of Amazon. I feel bad for the people who have to drag it to my door.
All right, David's part of the problem, everyone. Anyway,
I am. I absolutely am.
I'll tell you what's coming next time on the show, though, everyone. We are doing another film that I have not seen before, and we're doing purely because it was on sale for $2.99 on iTunes a few weeks ago, and I bought it, and I said, I'll put that on the schedule. We're doing a film called Brainstorm, which I think is from either the end of the 80s or the start of the 90s, somewhere around there.
I see a Christopher Walken film from 1983. Is that what we're looking at?
That may be it. Yeah, maybe I may just be misremembering. Like I know nothing about this, so I think that's the movie. I'll double check before we go to watch it, of course, so we both watch the same thing. But yes, we're going to be doing Brainstorm next week, and we'll see how that is. Really have no idea what it's about. I'm going to assume we make maybe a scannersy type thing. We have telepaths, telekinetic people, maybe.
I'll say the first sentence here of the IMDb: researchers develop a system where they can jump into people's minds.
Oh, it's Inception-like.
Yeah. Something.
All right. Well, we'll see how that goes. But with Christopher Walken, like cadence, that'll be something.
At the end of the movie is everyone on Earth now just speaks like Christopher Walken because he's infected all of their minds.
So that's next week. And yeah, that'll do it. Obviously, we got Sidney Lumet season ongoing over on Collector's Cut, which is mostly 60s and a couple of 70s movies. So if you like us doing movies from this era, you can get some non-sci-fi variety over on Collector's Cut right now. But of course, you can like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and you can support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership. And you get access to the bonus ratings rundown segment, which we do for each episode now. And you get access to a monthly show that we do called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies ever made. One or two of them have been science fiction. Like I've not like said, oh, we can't do that on Extra Reels because it's technically sci-fi. I think some stuff is just so bad that it can just be an Extra Reels episode.
Yeah, it's a gradient, and if it happens to bend more towards awful than sci-fi, it may end up there.
Yes. That said, though, if it's part of a franchise that has to start on Ace, it'll probably stay on Ace. So just making that clear.
The rules are so arbitrary and made up, but yeah, they exist.
Look, the reason why I'm saying that is because I was looking ahead and I've penciled in over the course of like things starting next year and then through 2027 because there's a reboot coming and we have to have them done for. But I have penciled in the Highlander films, and I happen to know that after the first one, they're pretty much all Extra Reels worthy.
Great. Fantastic.
So buckle up, because we've got Highlander 2 The Quickening, we've got Highlander Endgame, Highlander The Source. These are all meant to be absolute turds. So,
Pete, why could there just not only be one?
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
The audience, if you don't know, the catchphrase from Highlander is "there can only be one." So he was making a little pun about the movie there. Very good.
Thank you.
And there's actually Scottish people in the reboot, so that's, I mean, not the main character, sadly, that's Henry Cavill, but like there's other Scottish characters in it at least, so that's nice.
Well, thank God the movie about Scottish people can have at least one Scottish person in it. That's good for you.
I mean, Karen Gillan's in it, Drew McIntyre's in it.
Yeah, all right.
Maybe there'll be more, I don't know. But hey,
coming to you in a year's time.
Well, it's not got a date yet, but they're starting to they were going to shoot it just now, but Henry Cavill got injured when he was rehearsing like a fight scene or something, so they're not shooting it until the start of the year. So, but I assume it might be out by the end of 2027, just based on when it's shooting. So
yeah, sounds right.
We'll see. But we have to start chipping away at those at some point. But we got tons of things coming. Anyway, that's the future. Next week's brainstorm. Wish David a happy marriage or something. I don't know.
Yes. Comment all of the advice you would give me for a happy marriage.
Yeah, because you'll be married by the time this goes out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Assuming no one gets left at the altar, of course.
Well, I'd hope not, because she's going to be my ride home, so that's definitely going to be a problem.
Yeah, the fact that you already live together would make standing you up at the wedding particularly awkward. Yeah.
And it's not even like she can stay at her parents. Her parents live like 5 minutes away from us. Like, it's not even that far away.
Look in the bright side. I think the fact that you've already been living together for 2 years or something like that. She already knows what the married life is like. It's not like she can get cold. Like, nothing's changing really. It's like a technicality.
Oh yeah, no. I fully intend to spend at least 1 week going full Al Bundy, just on the couch with a beer, just to say it could have been this. Count your stars, it isn't.
I mean, honestly, I can't imagine people getting married without having lived together for a little bit first.
I know, right?
It's weird.
Every time I see that in old movies, I'm like, but how do you know?
Yeah, you might hate each other once you actually have to spend a week together with no breaks. That's wild.
It's awful.
Literally, you get married, you commit yourself to this life, and then 3 days in, you're like, he keeps making that noise. He keeps making that noise, and I want to kill him.
I mean, there's a reason that divorce wasn't a thing up until a certain point. It's because if you let people divorce, the rate would be 95%.
Oh well, that's your outro. That's what you got instead of your homework this week. You got a discussion about marriage, divorce. Yes,
great, love it.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for joining us, as always. Thanks to everyone who supports us, and keep watching the science fiction and computer ad salsa.